question is, do we need to emulate or try and be at somebody else's level before we can get beyond that for ourselves?
Well, you have to get beyond where you are. In any case, at every step of the game, see. If we're talking about highest creativity, we're talking about selflessness, that means you can't buy anything you tend to do. Okay? Even though the paradox is you tend to do it because you're programmed to do it. So it's natural to do it. The idea is that it's supernatural to go beyond what you tend to do by way of birth. So that what is happening, you keep peeling the onion of self and move closer towards the radiance of the heart, which is by nature selfless. So when we're talking about becoming, the Dharma is all about becoming. Music is all about becoming for everybody, right? All the sciences are all about becoming because they give people something to become if they're not already becoming something else. See? Education is about becoming. Culture is about becoming. Life is about becoming. So becoming is part of the process. We always have to see beyond what we're able to see. That's gross. That's intelligence, without which there'd be no universe to explore. People have been seeing beyond this planet since the beginning, wondering where we came from. So that is part of our nature. So let's say that's native to us to keep doing it. The idea is not to get stuck in anything, even if what we're talking about is the image of a Buddha or the example of a living Buddha, teacher, or guru, whatever, right, or a saint. Or someone who's a genius of some sort, where you know they are a pure form of what it is that they do and what it is that they have to do. See, we are working towards that. See, the way to it, again, is stripping down. That is becoming. Stripping down and letting go is becoming. Purified, right, of gravitational forces to the contrary. See, it's something we need to do. See. When you get to the top, let's say there's a top. When you reach the level of, let's say, an Elvin Jones or one of the cats, you go beyond that. Don't stay there, because that's what they would do. They'd go beyond it. Once they found themselves to be a limitation, they go beyond it. They don't imitate me, and I'm trying to get beyond my imitation of myself. Right?
So is there a balance of both gaining and letting go, or
letting go is the gain.
That's
it is a constant gain. See, you had the example in the music we just played. How much of that do you remember? No, it's all gone already. See, there's nothing to hold on to. See, that's the deliberational aspect is released from gravity. That means self-clinging and so on and so forth. And so this is the nature of it. Even though we love the music, people do, and it's offered for them to love. But for those people who are evolving, you want to be careful what you love because you might become it, and that alone.
It seems like people want to relate to the becoming, or I guess what we're talking about, the going beyond it somehow. A lot
well,
of
the
that.
funny thing is we're already beyond it, right? Because you go to sleep every night, you're already beyond it. You're beyond yourself completely, radically. Mm-hmm. Every night you go to sleep into blankness. That's your true. Mm-hmm. It's blankness. Zero, heart space. But when do you hear people talking about it? Am I the only guy out here that's talking about this? Right? Well, I shouldn't be. That's why we're talking about it now. Mm-hmm. Right? You go back to it. You go back to your origin, your source, which is void of self. There's no self there. There's nothing there. But out of that nothing there comes everything. Right? And out of the void, right? Spark of light. Right? Voila, eureka, boom. That's true of everyone. Every being is that spark of light that's come out. Right. They get stuck in trying to be something less than the spark of light, and that means everything the self is, which is much less than the spark of light. Yeah. They don't remember the spark of light. They may have an impulse about it if they hear this talk about it, that spark of light. Where is your spark of life, right? that is a manifestation of the source of your own true nature, right? Without it, you wouldn't exist. So why have you ignored it? Why ignore it any longer? Basically, please. Okay.
Dharma seems to be often spoken, occasionally in other circles, sung or practiced physically.
Well, we can say realization practice.
Yeah.
Realization practice.
And
Making real something very profound. Right.
And whether the expression of that is in profound understanding via language or profound sound via music is somebody's...
Then what you're talking about is the being showing up in what they do. That means that's their example, see? So what you're talking about then is the conduct of a person of realization. That's the conduct. Whatever they do is their conduct. And then the results of that, they could be walking, they could be talking, they can be doing garden work, they can be doing something. And whatever they do is a result, because the realization is consistent. It's part of that. It's continuous. See? So it's up to people who understand, first, this radical simplicity of realization, so it doesn't have to be complicated. See? But then it has the element of infinity in it, so that it could be complicated, as in the case of what I play. It appears to be complicated, but not really. It's utterly simple. From where it comes from, it's utterly simple and mindless. So it could be considered utterly insane or perfect, and I choose to call it the latter. Right? Perfect. It's perfectly what it is. I wouldn't change a note on it. Right? Just leave it. It's the Tao in sound. It's the living Tao in sound.
If one, as a practitioner, is choosing a path, say that's something that somebody does.
You're talking about a technology.
Yeah, a vehicle maybe?
Same thing. Technology, yeah.
And
where you learn techniques. You pick up techniques. You can learn like little pointers of, let's say, wisdom here and there. This is all part of the technology of whatever the tradition is, right? Which is offered to attune you to the flow of the work or the purpose of that particular work. Call it the path. Tune you to the path. That means then you start pulling yourself together based upon the technology they offer you, the wisdom, whatever it is, the teachings. And so here, the music is a form of technology. And so since I have a certain kind of background in it, so you hear this kind of music, and it's real. So it's not offered out of somebody's mind, but offered more from the heart in terms of what the flow is. So it's psychic in its nature. So as it's given, as a native, it's psychic. You don't have to try it. You have to let it come out. So you have to open to it. And that's the process. Whether you're in any tradition or no tradition, that is still the same process. So we are here with the potential to unfold consciousness from the finite to the infinite, which is our source. No infinite, there's no finite. No finite, there's no infinite. So they're a balance. The inner and the outer. The this and the that. Proceed.
Would a different practice, say a sound practice or educational or language-based practice, create a different result?
Yeah, of course. It depends on the capacity. Some might accelerate their progress doing one thing or other. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, which is a practice. And some people, it's scale practice. So it's not the thing itself that determines whether or not you're enlightened or unenlightened, but the being's openness to what it is as either a form that is binding, or either a form of formlessness which is liberating. Bingo. Boom, boom, cha-boom. Many in the world feel that what it is that they do, they pick. Right? And so that's one view. So you pick what you do, but sometimes there's the other view, which is more radical, that the thing picks you, that you picked. You don't pick. You had no choice. It picks you, and you think you picked it. Because if we're talking about destiny and karma, that's using you. That's using everybody. Everything that you call as you is what it enables you to assume. Because you is a self point, a dot, like a beginning point, like an unfolding point, like a little zit, right? Let's say it's a zit. Everyone is a zit. Or here to explode. Open. Be undone. And that's what, let's say, the concept of life and death is about. Birth, and then having the fullness of the whole birth completed in the next birth by way of death. Death is birth. Death is the front side of death. Death is the back side of birth. So you picked to be here. You cooperated with the forces, so you say, yeah, I think I need it or whatever. But you were picked to be here. All of us were picked to do this. We're all part of the same sort of flowering of abilities, talents, and skills, and purpose. So that we come to a ripeness. This is not just like going to a movie to hear something and see something that really has no relevance to your life. Ordinarily, right? I mean, you can identify with it, so it has some relevance, basic relevance. Right? It's relevant enough to pay for it because these are the people who are doing it, the theme, whatever it is, or you just happen to slip into the movie because you're bored with where you were at before that. So really, nothing powerful in that case. So we are born to experience the power of the glory of the life, and for most of us here, it's music at some level or other. We're moving. Well, ideally, you're moving deeper into understanding the infiniteness of it, and in the process accept that, well, you can't push it. It's already beyond anything you're pushing, but you can study it, you can practice it, you can perform it, and maybe under the right circumstances, the condition arises where you actually start to create. And then you may not value it depending on what side of the tracks you're on. I say, well, that's not music. What's coming to me is not music. I'm not reading it, so it can't be music. I'm just feeling it. I don't know if just feeling it is music. Well, depends on what side of the tracks you're on. So it picks you. It comes when it comes. Be happy it comes at all. So your presence is your purpose. And your purpose is the case because wherever you go, you're experiencing yourself for better, for worse, and maybe for no reason at all. You might be able to enter the grace of boredom. Say, nothing happening. Which, interestingly, is a way of connecting with the unconscious sleeper. You can't say anybody's really bored. They don't know what to do with the boredom, which is a form of sleep, rest, emptiness. And it's miraculous in its potential if you know what it is. It's like the ground of compassion. Emptiness, zero. Nothing in the way. Intuitively, then that nothingness becomes a light to service. It illuminates the field for one to find purpose in. if one hasn't already. But it comes. Mm, mm, mm. And you've been here long enough because you see that there's no end to what this is, which a lot of people wish there were an end and a finished product much earlier so they could keep moving on. But this is the creative process in life. The living process, the living creative process, as you hear manifested. See? And by the great hook for you and a few others, and that's the music is a big hook, man, because you say, this music is something else. How? Where? Mm-hmm. And the resonance is with where it's coming from. See? So then it's not even the music, but the process of the creation, right? The being who is translating human and psychic experience and sorrow and tragedy into sound forms called music, right? In this case, mostly through the guitar lines. Mm-hmm. Talking through the guitar lines. Same. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Everyone has to work with what they have, see? It's not fair or reasonable to feel that a form of native wisdom should be everybody's wisdom, because that would be to undercut anybody's hard-earned lessons of life and death. So we don't take that from anyone. We let everybody live their lives according to their mistakes. Right? So you have your failures and you have your successes, and you start to mature and you say, well, I think I'm going to be doing this more because I'm successful at it. So, good. Don't change what's working for you. That's the rule of thumb, if you need it. What we're talking about is a level of progression and intelligence that is actually radical. It's not that everybody, because everybody's a native human, doesn't mean everybody's in touch with this level. I was born with this level. It's a level of hearing and playing, and it's a level of understanding and speaking. Say what to speak of. Because my elders spoke to me. They communicated the wisdom by speech, and actions. So I started there. I had that a little bit toned up by a Roman Catholic upbringing. Schooling. Which was good training. It's good to believe. It's good to consider, because from that could be an awakening as to what you really need. Everything leads to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And I had many experiences, which is part of this too. I had many experiences as a child that would be considered visionary in a sense. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying I recommend it, but because of my genes, that was one way of seeing and hearing, doing and being, according to my relatives. Few of them. Most of them were more ordinary and enjoying that. See? But then there were a few that were more peculiar and having to deal with that and the service that was supposed to be provided by way of that sensitivity that each had. And each one has to be okay with that, not feel that they can't be themselves because they're working off of mommy and daddy's programming. That's a starting point. That's great. At least you have that. See, you have to honor it, respect it, and learn your lessons from elders in the field, and they can make it easier for you. Hopefully they're good and they don't, misguide you. But you come here as a humble student, right? Who's in the stage of wanting to teach others. So you're learning your lessons. You're hearing what I'm saying. You're watching me live it, and that's the most important part of the demonstration. And then you hear me back it up with word, and then you hear me back it up with music. And so you have all that you need to make your conclusions for yourself. and learn what you need to learn so that you are able to put into practice those things that serve your higher purposes of being liberated in the midst of time and space, energy and matter, also known as the universe, material universe, not the inner universe, the outer, social, worldly universe, one we are both. So then you need to sort of like tune into the inner verse. The inner verses to balance out the karmas of the outer, and that's what you're doing as well. Yeah, there's no real need for a rush to enlightenment, which you already are but don't know it. You have to know it at its level, not know it at your self level. So you have to know it beyond your karmic self level, and then embrace it for what it is. So in the beginning, if there is a beginning, you start making distinctions about what it isn't and what it must be. Since you know what it isn't, then you know what it is. If you have a sense of what it is, then you move in that direction because you have your sight towards that. You have your ear on that. So, and I'm speaking in terms of what is real to you, and that is different for everyone. And that's the beauty of it. It's different for everyone. Therefore, it is that each one has to walk the path themselves. You have to realize the truth for yourself, beyond yourself.
Yeah. Is there a difference between beyond, the imagination engaging with the idea of beyond,
Asleep.
and
Deep asleep.
and is that
Is absolutely beyond.
is that a bridge to what that might be in reality?
It's the inside of what is already the case. It's not quite a bridge, it's the truth of what everything is already. Therefore, everyone is enlightenment, everyone is the Buddha. But you need to realize that for what it is on its own terms.
Perhaps everybody has a different way to imagine voidness.
They have other things to do before they can get to, like the end of their desires. Right? So minus desire, minus self, thought, and mind, you have your enlightenment. So now it's also coexisting. So the idea, of course, is then to be able to manipulate, if you will, or cancel, if you can, these other things that are dynamics of the human realm and human functioning more so than, limitations to enlightenment. Enlightenment is what it is. It doesn't need anything. It's not asking for anything. It's not needing anybody or anything. What all? Right? Whatever. What anything is. It's not a thing. It's the true no thing, but you have to get to that point of exhaustion where you can embrace the all-knowing nothing for what it is and only is and ever was of itself. Nothing. First, always. And last, nothing. The consciousness of deep sleep. Blankness, fundamentally so. See, emptiness, radically so. Truth, infinitely so. And there are no words for it. So there's no void, there's no alignment, there's zero. It's just being. As it is being. Just being. Like an arm of the chair. Yeah. It's being. It's not negating anything. It's just what it is. Floor, rug, drums, bass, guitar. Realization is that. No more, no less. Bid you good luck. Shoo.
Yeah, so when we get up from our meditation or our satsang or our music and go back to our lives, sometimes there's a little bit of a drag. Like,
Well, that's because your karma is such. That's got nothing to do with the practice. The practice is seeing beyond those things as any kind of drag, but just part of the field. And you deal with it as part of the field. You walk through it. You walk through the walls, So bounce off of them in a sense. You go through the walls. But there's no body. When you go through the walls. With no body, you can go through the walls. And that's relative to the mind, too. The mind is, there's no body, it's awareness. You can go through everything. It's empty. You have to remember what's empty. And if you can remind yourself to remember what is empty, then you start to stay closer to the inwardness that you experience here. It's not highness in a social sense, no, it's an inwardness. It's a paying attention to the inner, the subtle, the quiet, see? The beingness, the selfless. Heartfulness. Shoo.